Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ben here, and today I'm coming at you with a video just going to cover everything LeBron with this decision made yesterday. Excuse me. I'm going to be talking about his decision to go to Los Angeles and become a Laker. What do I think of how the team will be basketball-wise? What do I think of some of the moves that they've made to surround LeBron? And what do I think the move means for his legacy and what it says about LeBron actually just as a person and as a competitor overall? So getting started, I am going to be talking about just the move itself. So it's a 4-year deal for 156 million, I think, or 57 million. So I think immediately what comes to my mind is I was surprised that this wasn't like a one-and-one deal like he's done in the past, where he signs a deal for 2 years but an opt-out after 1 year. So it's essentially like a one-year deal, and if things are going well, he'll opt in for the next year. Well, they didn't do that. They did a fully guaranteed 4-year deal, which I think is interesting because normally LeBron is so unwilling to give up control of the situation and really fully commit, but he did do that in this situation, which I think is interesting. And it means that I think that this will be the last place he plays, at least in his prime. You know, maybe he goes back to Cleveland when he's 39 and plays 1 year there or something like that. But I think we will see LeBron descend as far as talent goes while he was in Los Angeles. I don't think that he's going to play there throughout. I don't think that he'll change teams and still be in his prime at all. I think his prime will end in Los Angeles for sure. I was actually fairly shocked by this move. I did not think that he would sign this early. When I got the update on my phone yesterday, I was shocked to see that LeBron had already made up his mind and had gone to Los Angeles. I thought for sure he'd wait till at least past the 4th of July or something like that, wait a little while, but no. He actually is one of the earliest people to sign a contract of all the free agents out there, which really shocked me. I thought he was definitely going to wait until some sort of Kawhi Leonard trade had happened, or just some other big moves, but he just went for it, you know. I think Paul George staying in OKC really freed him up to make the decision whenever he wanted, because I think he was going to wait for Paul George to make his decision, but once George decided to stay in OKC, LeBron really thought that he could just decide where he wanted to go right then and didn't have to wait. So yeah, that's a bit about my initial reaction itself. I was very shocked that he didn't wait longer. The money, nothing about the money surprised me as far as signing for the max. The length did, though. I was very surprised that it wasn't a 2-year deal with an opt-out after the first year. But I think that that's kind of a cool thing that LeBron for once, not for once I should say, but for the first time in about 4 years is finally willing to commit to somewhere for more than a 1 to 2 year basis, which I think is interesting. And I think will actually help Los Angeles in the long run in that they'll have more flexibility because they will know what their team is going to look like going down the line more than if you just signed a 1-year deal. They would not really know as much what the team is projected to look like going from year to year. So it was reported that the night before free agency started, Saturday night at midnight, or like you could say Sunday morning at midnight if you want to look at it that way. And reportedly, Magic Johnson was on LeBron's doorstep at 9 p.m. before free agency even started. So if you hear that report, you basically know that he's going to go to the Lakers. Also, I had an inkling that he would go to the Lakers based on the fact that he went to Los Angeles right before free agency started. I feel like that was sort of a dead giveaway. I don't think he'd hold all of his meetings in Los Angeles if he was planning on going anywhere else. I think he would hold them in more of a neutral location or in the cities that he was thinking of going to. He didn't, I think what I heard is that he didn't hold meetings with Houston or the Heat or the Clippers. And I think he basically just told Cleveland right away he wasn't going to go there. And his agent took a meeting with the 76ers the first day of free agency, but he himself didn't even meet with the 76ers. So I think what that says is that he definitely wasn't interested, or he was definitely considering the Lakers way more than the 76ers because he didn't even meet with the 76ers brass to talk about it. So yeah, that's that's a little bit of background information if you didn't know what was going on with that, just on the decision process itself. So now I want to talk a little bit more about the basketball side of everything and what this move to the Lakers really means for LeBron, just as far as playing basketball goes and like how good I think they will be. So currently as the roster is constructed, their starting lineup would probably look something like Lonzo at the 1, Caldwell Pope at the 2, at the 3, Kuzma or LeBron, at the 4, Kuzma or LeBron, and at the 5, JaVale McGee. Oh, and by the way, let me just cover this real quick. The Lakers, besides signing LeBron, also re-signed Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, released the rights to Julius Randle, which basically means they're going to let him walk in free agency, which clears up around $12 to $13 million in cap space, which allows them to potentially go after DeMarcus Cousins if they can sign him. You know, I think that the potential for DeMarcus Cousins is more like a 1-year, $20 million deal, where maybe they're going to say, you know, really prove yourself, and then the next year they could re-sign him to a max, which is, I think, what they should do. Because a year from now, Luol Deng's contract will be off the books. That'll free up another $20 million, and they can properly sign him to a max deal. So that's a possibility that they could do. But just looking at their team as currently constructed, they also, besides LeBron, signed Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to a 1-year deal, Lance Stevenson to I think a 2-year deal or 1-year deal. They signed Rajon Rondo to a 1-year deal and JaVale McGee, I think, to a 2-year deal. So that's some of the players that they added around him. The Rajon Rondo one is the one that shocked me the most. I was really surprised to see that he was going to go there. But it's going to be very interesting to see how him and LeBron and all these big personalities, JaVale McGee, LeBron, Rajon Rondo, Lance Stevenson. And although you wouldn't say Lonzo has a big personality, I think the fanfare that surrounds him and his family is a big deal. So you could say in that way he's a big presence, at least. So yeah, that'll be really interesting, and to see if him and Kuzma are still getting along, if they're still feuding, or I don't know if you guys have heard about that, but there's apparently some sort of a feud between Lonzo and Kuzma. But that's a story for another time. But yeah, so I'll go through the roster again because I got a bit off track there. So ostensibly, the starting lineup and key rotational players would look like this. So starting at point guard, you'd have Lonzo. At the 2, Caldwell Pope. At the 3, Kuzma probably. At the 4, LeBron. At the 5, JaVale McGee. And as the key bench players, you'd have Brandon Ingram, who could easily start over Kuzma. And then you'd have Rondo and Lance Stevenson. So the major flaw that I'm identifying with this lineup right away is that there's like such a lack of big men. Yes, they have JaVale, but LeBron's almost going to exclusively have to play the power forward. And even at times, if they don't, I mean, they could put this guy named Ivica Zubac in at center, but I don't know. I don't really like that guy all that much. I don't think he's very talented. I mean, they could put LeBron in at center for small stints. I don't really think that that's a good idea because I don't know if the 33 going on 34-year-old body of his can handle that as much as it maybe could when he was, say, playing in Miami. But he could still play the 4 full-time, I think, and the 5 for very short stints of maybe like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes at a time. But right now, JaVale is the only rotation big man that they have on the team. If they do sign DeMarcus Cousins, that'll be a completely different story. But as it stands right now, JaVale McGee looks like their only big man that would be in the rotation, which is what I'm identifying as a major flaw. Another major flaw would be the lack of shooting on the team. Yes, you have Ingram, who's an okay outside shooter. You have Caldwell Pope, who is, I think you could probably say, a good outside shooter. Kuzma's an average to slightly above average outside shooter. But Lonzo, LeBron, JaVale McGee, Rondo, those are all guys that aren't good outside shooters. Lance Stevenson's pretty average to slightly above average from outside, but you never really know what you're going to get with him. He could be the guy that puts up 15 a game and it's a 6th man of the year, or he could put up 4 points a game on 28% shooting. You never really know. So I don't know how much you can factor in his production into looking into their next couple years. And an interesting fact about that Lance Stevenson pickup is that they could have probably signed him for about a veteran's minimum, like $2 million or $1 million, but they actually gave him $4.5 million per year, which is a very interesting move in that you'd think that they'd want to create as much cap space as possible to get another big free agent like DeMarcus Cousins, but they did not. And they also gave Caldwell Pope a $12 million deal instead of something more like $8 million, which I think that they could have gotten away with because he very much underperformed last year. But again, aside from the point, they really have a lack of shooting. And, let's say that they have a lineup at some point of Rondo and Ball in at the guards and McGee in at center and LeBron at the 4. That leaves only one, whoever plays a small forward, whether it be, Ingram or Kuzma or Stevenson, that leaves one spot on the floor with a guy who's capable of shooting reliably from the outside. And if it's Ingram, not even really that reliable. He's very inconsistent from the outside, and he's okay, but he's not a 3-point threat really yet. He's just like average from the outside. So as far as what I would suggest they do, if I had a move that I would make, what my move would be is to sign Cousins for maybe around $20 million. With getting rid of Randall, that creates about $13 million in cap space, and I think that they still have a little bit of remaining cap space based on their signings and stuff, because LeBron's taking up 35 and they had $60 million cap space, so that leaves them with 25, and then Caldwell Pope takes away 12, so that leaves them with 13, and then McGee and Rondo and Stevenson altogether are probably around 10. So that leaves them with around $3 million. Combine that with Randall's 12, you get 15. And you could dip into the luxury tax a little bit, I think. So they could probably give Boogie, I would suggest a 1-year deal for $18 million. And say prove yourself, like a lot of players do. DeAndre Jordan in Dallas is doing a similar thing. If you guys haven't heard, he signed a 1-year deal for $24 million there. Sort of like a prove it, and then next year you can get a really good contract. And so then the next year, when Luol Deng's contract is off the books, they could sign DeMarcus to more like a max contract. But that would be my number one thing to do, is get DeMarcus Cousins in there somehow. The Kawhi Leonard trade thing, I don't know if I really see that happening, honestly. I feel like the Spurs are asking for way too much to get a fair trade with the Lakers. I think that they're going to want Lonzo, Ingram, Kuzma, and 2 first-round picks. That seems like a pretty steep price to ask for just for one player who is coming off a big injury. So I would hold off on Kawhi a little bit, honestly, until the price comes down for him. But yeah, that'd be my first move, was to get Cousins. And then a second move would be maybe for a vet's minimum, for $800K, sign a veteran sharpshooter, sort of like somebody in the market of a Korver or something like that, who can just knock down shots, and LeBron can kick it too, because they do need a lot more shooting, I think, unless they're going to play Caldwell Pope 48 minutes a night, so they'll always have a shooter on the floor, which I'm obviously just kidding, but so yeah, the next thing I want to talk about is sort of what it means, I think, for LeBron's legacy and what it says about him just overall as a person. So I think for his legacy, what it says and what I've heard a lot of people saying is that this really signifies that LeBron doesn't think he has anything left to prove, because he's going to a team that was in the lottery last year and really, just on paper isn't really at all more talented than what the Cavs had, but it's just sort of like a fresh start, and he's in the West, so he can be in Los Angeles and enjoy the weather year-round and be in a really fun city where he likes, where he enjoys himself, where his family enjoys themselves. So I think that's what initially I get a read on that, is that he's confident in that his legacy as a basketball player basically is cemented, and that he's won 4 MVPs, 3 titles, 3 finals MVPs. He's pretty comfortable with where he stands all time. I think he sort of knows he's the second best player of all time, or at least in the top 3, 4, 5. So he doesn't feel like going somewhere and winning one more title would even prove that. But I think if he does win a title with the Lakers, it would definitely boost him up on the food chain a bit. But I don't think he is going to be heartbroken if he doesn't win another title. And one thing it says about him as a person is just that he is definitely thinking a lot more about his businesses and about his family. Just basically that his focus is transitioned more from basketball to just all around his entire life. Like, you could say, oh, he could go to Philly or Houston and be a much more be in a much better basketball situation as far as how good his team would be. But I think that this move signifies that he's much more about pleasing his family and his friends and his business goals rather than just winning a championship. Because if he wanted to just win a championship, I think that he would have gone to Houston, and if not Houston, Philly. So that's where I stand on that. I think he definitely is more about like branching out his businesses, his TV show ideas, his roles in movies like Space Jam 2. And if you're conducting business from Los Angeles, that's all going to be a lot easier than Cleveland or some other city halfway across the country. I think that also his son was really liking some high schools in Los Angeles, and he didn't want to be playing in another city while his sons grew up in another city. Like, let's say LeBron's playing in Houston while his sons, plural, go to school in Los Angeles. And they'd just be so separated all the time. I don't think he wanted that either. So I think, as I have reiterated already, it's really just a decision for his entire life rather than just for basketball, which I think is perfectly fine, and he's entitled to do that. You know, he's had a really good career, and I'm a huge fan of his, and if he wants to do that, he's completely entitled to it. So those are some of my thoughts, guys. The LeBron bombshell is still surprising me, and in all honesty, I haven't fully grasped the repercussions and effects of it and how it's all going to unfold. I think after all free agency and big trades of the summer have settled, I'll do more like my thoughts on all of it, maybe in the next couple of weeks here. I kind of want to see if this Kawhi trade goes down soon. If that doesn't happen, then I'll just do a free agency review of all the big moves that have gone down. Sort of reviewing like LeBron, Paul George, DeAndre Jordan. We'll have to see where guys like Jabari Parker and Tyreek Evans and those guys go. Aaron Gordon re-signing with the Magic and not leaving. All those big moves like that we'll have to talk about. Where Dwight Howard signs, by the way, not a huge free agent, but somebody to still keep your eyes on. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you agree with me or disagree with me, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you, and I will see you next time. Bye.